good friend of mine had a very interesting, if somewhat simplistic way of looking at report writing. He used to say that he was writing a report with the idea in mind that it was going to be read by people who could not talk their way out of jury duty. He was hinting around at the notion that it was in his best interest to keep the report as simple as possible and still have it convey all the information needed by the people who had to make a decision about what had happened. I think he was onto something. Hello and welcome to the Basic Security Officer Training Series. I'm Bill Jackson. We have a tendency to make the report writing process much more difficult than it really is. It's nothing more than a combination of facts written in such a way that it makes sense to the reader. That point brings up a question. Who actually reads these things anyway? Well, it's a good question. If you think that no one seems real interested about your written report, you're mistaken. Someone in the organization wants to know what happened. Here's a list of possible interested parties. Supervisors. They're going to look at the report in order to get an idea of how well you are doing your job. The report that you write might be a part of your next evaluation and possibly your next raise. Of course, if the report is incomplete or poorly done, this could go the other way too. Risk management. They will want to see your report in order to get a first look at potential future problems for the company. Your report may not be the one that identifies a major problem, but it could be put with other reports and used to show a trend or pattern that the company needs to be concerned about. The police. If they're going to follow up on your initial report, they're going to have an idea of what you initially did, saw, and heard. If the report is not complete, a criminal could walk away undetected. The insurance people. They're interested in your report for many of the same reasons that the risk management people are. They're also concerned about potential claims being filed against the company that could end up costing a great deal of money. The lawyers. In this very lawsuit-oriented society that we live in, any company that does not keep their legal team advised of potential court actions is just asking for trouble. The judge and jury. If it comes down to a courtroom battle, our report may end up being the best weapon that the organization is going to have. The administration. They're going to view the report as an indication of the overall effectiveness of the entire security operation when a critical incident happens. No pressure there, huh? The fact of the matter is that when you sit down to write a report about an incident, you really have no idea who might end up reading it. It could very well be that very few people see it. It's also possible that it will be reviewed very closely by 9 people in black robes from the highest court in the land. You just don't know. Producing a report that can fill the needs of all those people and entities might seem like a pretty large order to fill. Actually, it's not all that difficult. There are 5 guidelines that you can follow that will help simplify the process. They look like this. Completeness. Your report has to be complete and thorough. That means that all of the available and relevant information must be made a part of the report. People need to be fully identified. Statements need to include all the things that they had to say. Evidence must be fully described and accounted for. If you get done with a report and in reviewing it, you feel that there's something that needs further explanation, then the report's not really done. Conciseness. Get to the point as quickly as possible. You're not writing a novel. You're conveying information. Don't fill the report with a bunch of needless narrative. Have an idea in mind of what you want to say and try to say it in as few words as possible. The best reports are the shortest ones. Clarity. Be specific. Don't write down what you think someone said. Quote them exactly. Don't guess at distances or locations. Measure and be exact. Don't say weapon when you mean a gun or a knife. Don't say someone contacted you when you mean they called you on the phone or on the radio. Avoid opportunities to be vague. Clarity will keep the reader focused on the important information. Correctness. Make sure that you're right. If you're not sure, then double check and even triple check if need be. Take the time and expend the effort necessary to be able to swear in front of a judge that the information in your report is as correct as you could possibly make it. That is what you might end up doing, so you'd better be right. Courtesy. This is another way of saying be fair. Remember that the purpose of an investigation is to determine what the facts are in a particular case, the facts that may convict and the facts that may clear. You have to make sure that the facts and the follow-up are fair to the people concerned. It's no more courtesy than what you would expect of a professional if you were the target of an investigation. Besides, where would we be if the people who apply the rules did not play by them? Note-taking. Your field notes are a quick and accurate method of keeping track of what you saw, did, and heard. If you trust something to memory, you're going to find yourself in trouble rather quickly. The notebook that you use should be a small one, small enough to carry and yet big enough to write on. In lieu of a regular notebook, some security officers like to carry a small stack of 5 or 10 3x5 cards with lines on one side. They're great for writing and can be brought to court without losing the contents of the rest of your notebook. Always carry 2 pens in case one doesn't write. When you're going to use your field notes, what are you going to use them for? Well, several things. They will be your main reference point for writing your final report. They will come in handy when you hear someone contradicting a statement they made to you previously. They will be helpful later when you need to refresh your memory before giving testimony. They will also serve as a checklist to make sure that you've done everything that you need to do in conducting the investigation. These are an excellent opportunity for you to showcase your ability as an investigator. Remember this too. In court, if there is a conflict between something in your notes and something that is written on a report, the judge will probably allow the notes over the report. There is a presumption that the notes are more accurate since they were taken at the scene at the time of the incident. Make sure you safeguard your field notes and keep them stored for at least 5 years in a safe place. How you decide to write your field note is up to you. These tips are offered as a way for you to make sure that your field notes are as good as they should be. After all, this is where the investigation will get its start. First, keep them legible. They're no good if you can't read them. Make sure they are complete. You need more than just the basic facts. Have a system. It can be yours, but you must be able to explain it and use it consistently. Abbreviations are fine as long as you know what they stand for. Stick with simple, commonly used abbreviations, and if in doubt, don't abbreviate. Use all of the space on the page. If you don't, people may accuse you of leaving something out. Develop your own style. It has to be comfortable for you or you won't use it. Don't wait. Write it down right away. Memory fades and eventually fails. Another thing, don't rip pages out. It looks like you're being dishonest. This may come back and haunt you in court. Don't erase an error. Instead, draw a line through it and keep going. Don't make any personal notes in your field notes. They're tough to explain on the stand. Do not put opinions in your field notes, just facts. And finally, review what you write. When you set about the task of trying to describe something to someone else, you have to keep a simple fact in mind. You are trying to tell someone about an object so that they would recognize it from all the other objects of a similar nature in the whole world. You're trying to make it exclusive. In order to make that task work, you have to follow a few simple guidelines. First, be specific. I've never heard a supervisor or an administrator, a lawyer, or even a judge complain that a report that they are reading contained too much detail. There was a case in one situation where a report said that some suspected marijuana had been found in a bowl. The defense attorney started to ask the security officer what kind of bowl he was making reference to in the report. Was it a salad bowl? Was it a cereal bowl? Perhaps he meant a toilet bowl. Well, by the end of his questioning, the people on the jury were clearly starting to wonder if the officer had found anything at all. If he had put in the report that he had found what appeared to be marijuana residue in the bowl of a brown wooden smoking pipe that he had found in the pocket of the suspect, the whole matter would have gone the other way. Be specific about what you're trying to describe. Remember, details matter. Describe what you see and not what you think you see. When you talk to people about witnessing an accident, you will probably soon discover that they are telling you the sequence of events in the order that they assume things must have happened. For example, most people don't actually see a traffic accident. They hear it.
Sir, are you okay?
They hear the crash
Sir, were you
and
injured?
quickly look at the source of the noise just in time to see the vehicles at final rest. Then they look at what is in front of them and put the scene into a sequence of events that is based upon their experience with such things. They could be totally off base in their assumption of what happened. Don't shortcut a description. It may be very easy and quick to describe a piece of jewelry as a gold ring with a diamond in it, but the longer version is probably closer to the real truth. It's a gold-colored ring with a diamond-like stone in it. The difference between the two is 2 words and about $5,000 if it comes up missing later in the case. This relates directly to items 1 and 2. A solid report is going to take as long as it takes to be thorough. When you try to shortcut a description, you're just asking for problems later on. Describing vehicles. The easiest way to remember how to describe a motor vehicle is to use the method that our counterparts in the police field have been using for years. It's called the symbols method. That stands for color, year, make, body style, and license number, and special characteristics such as dents or other distinguishing marks. Always describe a vehicle from the top down. Describing people. There are 2 basic components when it comes to doing a good job at describing people. We have to consider the things about them that they cannot change and the things about them that they can change easily. Both have to be a part of a complete description, but they are very different. The things about themselves that they cannot change, at least not very easily or quickly, consist of the following. Hair. That includes color, texture, style, and length. Eyes. That refers to the shape, color, slant, clarity, lashes, and eyebrows. 3. Complexion. Includes color, pores, pockmarks, acne, bumps, and facial hair. 4. Gender, either male or female. 5. Age. 6. Height. This is usually done in comparison with your own height. Approximate height in 2-inch increments. 7. Weight, which most people are not very good at. Group in 10 or 20-pound increments. 8 is build, fat, husky, slim, muscular. 9. Nationality, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, etc. Our format to ensure a complete description is race, sex, age, height, weight, and build. Here's an exercise. Look at the person next to you and write a description. The listing of the things that they can change relatively easily consists of the following. 1. Their shirt. The color, the collar, the sleeve length. 2. Coat. The color, the type, the length, the fabric. 3. Pants. Color, style, fabric. 4. Socks. Color, pattern. 5. Their shoes. The color, the style, the type, the material. 6. Accessories. A sweater, jewelry, watch, bracelet, gloves, etc. 7. Their general appearance. Are they sloppy, neat, clean, dirty, uniform, etc. If you could concentrate on just one aspect of the physical description of another person, it would have to be what you could see from the neck up. This would include such things as the following. The chin area. Look at the shape to see if it is pointed, rounded, square, small, doubled, or dimpled. The mouth area. Do the corners turn up or Are they level? Are the lips full, medium, or thin? The cheekbone area. Are the cheeks high, low, or prominent? Are the cheeks themselves sunken, filled out, dried, oily, wrinkled, or lined in any way? The ear area. Are the ears large or small, flat or protruding? The forehead area. Is the forehead high or low, wide or narrow, smooth or wrinkled? The hair. What is the texture? Is it curly? Is it straight? Long or short? Is it neat or is it unruly? How's it combed? The interrogatories. In a perfect world, the information that you need to put together in an accurate, brief, and clear report would come to you in a logical and clear manner. Unfortunately, we have to operate in the real world. That means that you, as the investigator, are going to have to go out and find the information. You're going to have to look at the scene, the surroundings, the people, and the circumstances in order to figure out what happened and write it down. The best way that we have figured out to do this is to answer the 6 questions that we refer to as the interrogatories. These are who, what, when, where, how, and why. Let's talk about the who. Who reported it? Who is involved? Who is a witness? Who knows what happened? Who was the closest to the incident? Who's the victim? Who was with the victim? Who do you need to talk to? What? What happened? What was the victim doing? What was used to start the incident? What was the sequence of the events? What do we really know about the incident? When? When did it happen? When did they call us? When did it start? When was the property last seen? When were the police called? When was the ambulance called? When did people leave the scene? Where? Where did it actually happen? Where did the victim go? Where did the suspect go? Where were the witnesses when it happened? Where is the evidence now? How? How did the incident happen? How did we find out about it? How did the suspect get in and out? How did the victim get involved? How did the evidence get where it is? The why. Why did the incident happen at all? Why was it reported the way it was? Why did someone leave out information? Why did the incident happen the way it did? Why did it happen where it did? Why did it happen when it did?
Why did it happen to this victim? The list of questions under each interrogatory is limited only by your imagination. The incident, the scene, the circumstances, the locations, all of these things and more will help you to make your own list of questions to ask about the event. The more questions you ask, the more information you'll gather. The more information you have, the better the finished report. Time and experience will show you that there are as many different report forms as there are security agencies. The variations on a simple theme can sometimes seem overwhelming, but when you take away all of the fill-in-the-blank forms, checklist forms, and the circle the correct response forms, you're left with the same basic requirement. Someone is going to have to sit down and write the report in a way that makes sense to everyone who reads it. By following some simple rules of report writing, you can make the task much easier. The hardest part about writing a report is getting started. If you've done a thorough job of investigation, you already have the information you need. Now, it's just a matter of putting it down on paper in an accurate, brief, and clear manner. Here's how you start to do that. Rule number 1, write simple. Just because it's going to be an official document doesn't mean that it has to sound like it was written by a team of attorneys. Use short, clear, and accurate words to describe what happened at the scene. It's not a short story, it's a factual report. If a sentence contains more than 22 words, it's probably too long. For instance, don't say a vehicle, say a car, or van, or truck. Be specific. Don't say detected. Say saw, or smelled, or heard. The purpose of the report is to convey information about an event to someone who was not there to see it. Don't cloud the issue by trying to use fancy words or difficult words. Don't call something a weapon. That could be anything from a nuclear aircraft carrier to a small pocket knife. Be specific. The more concrete and down-to-earth you keep the words, the easier they'll be to read, and the easier they are to spell. Rule number 2, write in the first person. Refer to yourself as I. That way, the reader of the report knows who did what. The infamous method of using the third-person format of calling yourself the investigating officer or the undersigned investigator takes way too long and is much too difficult to read. Don't cover up good security work by hiding it behind a tedious writing style. Besides, you're still going to have to sign the report. We're all going to know who did what anyway. Rule number 3, write in chronological order. Nothing ever happens all at once. Something happens which causes something else, which then causes something else, etc., etc. Your report will make much more sense to the person who reads it if you take the time and the effort to record the events in the order that they occurred. Being chronological will help to place the events at the scene in the proper perspective. It will allow the reader to see the flow of things and will enhance their insight. If the events are scattered all over the report, the person who reads it will have to go back and reread portions in order to understand. When possible, use exact quotes of people from those whom you interviewed. This is important when people make threats, refuse to comply, or admit wrongdoing. Rule number 4, don't use jargon or slang. One of the first things that we all do when we get started at a new endeavor is to make an all-out effort to learn the lingo. This is a fine form of socialization, but it has no place on a security report. Every career has its own unique phrases and words. They do not belong in your reports. The people who read your words may or may not have a similar background. You have to be mindful of the fact that you don't know who is going to read your report when all is said and done. It might go in a file in the office and never be seen again. On the other hand, it might be read by the 9 justices of the Supreme Court. There's no way to know. So, keep the cute stuff out, no 10 codes, no slang expressions, no profanity, unless it's relevant to a case, no locker room language of any kind. Remember, accurate, brief, and clear. Rule number 5, remember the rules of grammar. Sentences need to have a noun and a verb. They must contain an actor and an action. The words you use in place of nouns, called pronouns, must match the word they're being used for in gender and in tense. So, don't say we when you mean us. Don't say I when you mean they. Don't say she when you are describing him. It's also a good idea to try and use a noun as close to the front of the sentence as you can. In other words, get to the point. This is sometimes referred to as writing in an active way instead of a passive one. Remember that a sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. A paragraph is a group of sentences that express a complete idea. When you change topics or ideas, start a new paragraph. The rules are really very simple. As a matter of fact, you learned 99% of what you need to know to write a good report by the time you completed elementary school. Try to become familiar with the report writing style and requirements of your department as quickly as you can. Ask questions and seek clarification on things that confuse you. A security report is a vital part of the job. It's not the kind of thing that can be guessed at or left to chance. Remember, accurate, brief, and clear. Don't get caught in the age-old report writing trap of getting in a hurry to finish the report and go home. It's amazing to see the number of people who can't take the time to do the report properly, but manage to find the time to do the report over. When you're done with the report, proofread what you've written. Someone who writes for a living would laugh at the idea of turning in something after just the first draft. Look over the report with a critical eye.
You want to do all that you can to make sure that the report is as error-free as it possibly can be. Look for violations of the 5 C's and make the additions or corrections that are needed to turn the report around. If you're still not sure, ask another security officer to review the report for you. If you happen to be the officer who is asked to review another officer's report, you should take the request as both a compliment and a serious responsibility. Do the best review job that you can. Take the time to read the whole report and offer constructive criticisms. Remember where this report could possibly go. What kind of job would you want someone else to do for you? That's our program on report writing. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.